Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and in today's journey through the star map, we're stopping off in one of the earlier discovered systems by humanity, and that's going to be Centauri. Centauri was first discovered back in 2365 by a survey ship that upon first sight really knew that they had come across something pretty special. And it didn't take long for the system to be claimed by the UEE, and they quickly sold off the rights to the system to begin, collecting the funds to terraform. The third planet orbiting the Type A star is the one that became the most desired, and the rights were sold off at an extremely high premium. Funny enough, though, the third planet got so much attention that it became a beautiful place, while the other two planets, or the other planets in general, were almost just kind of ignored. Now, unlike Gauss 1, Centauri 1 plays a much more familiar role. It's a hunk of rock too close to the star to have an atmosphere or any real resources. The proximity to the star, though, is probably the one thing that does make this an interesting place, because the ejections from the star almost seem to reach and occasionally engulf the planet, making a really pretty stunning visual display. Centauri II is known as Yar, and it was initially very similar to Venus, though it's since been transformed via terraforming to a much more habitable place. That being said, it's still really close to the star, so much more habitable really means that it's covered in a desert. And it's actually called the Red Desert, and is what you're going to first notice here. Now, if you're wondering why they took the time and effort to terraform a planet from terrible to still pretty bad, it's all about the money, baby. There was a mountain range that showed a lot of promise for precious materials. However, there wasn't really nearly as much as anybody expected, and once it dried up, so did the interest on the planet. Now, there's research stations here, some commercial buildings to conduct businesses, and more than a few abandoned facilities that are just totally covered in the red sand the planet's become known for. And they've really begun to break down thanks to the environmental forces of erosion. The place is actually supposed to be fairly eerie, and many people who leave this planet feel something uncomfortable about the abandoned buildings. Nothing is really said, or we don't know anything about it being haunted or weird, but something just feels off to those people that have visited the place. Centauri III is called xi'an, and is the heart of the system and the one that really generated so much interest all those years ago. All the planning and effort that went into terraforming this place really resulted in this beautiful, well-maintained city that's really well planned out and is ready for human civilization right from the beginning. In fact, it was so well planned out that it actually has a population cap preventing more people from coming in and limiting the number of births, basically preventing the planet from changing more than they wanted to. Most of the land on xi'an was actually purchased by a large conglomerate from Japanese descent on Earth called a just colonial. And what we see is this huge influx of Japanese culture on this planet, kind of mixed with its own developing culture from the planet being, secluded from Earth, and especially in the main location of Fujin City. Now, if you're thinking about sort of an Asian theme and other aspects of Star Citizen, then you may have considered the ship manufacturer MISC and how Centauri serves as the headquarters for the company. You may wonder how a ship manufacturer also fits into this mold, and it's been thought out just like everything else on this planet. The MISC factory is actually outside of the city limits and is a largely automated, kind of minimalistic facility that's been replicated in many other sites based on kind of the overall elegance and overall productivity of it. The planet is responsible for the plant on this planet is responsible for the construction of the Starfarer line, while other factories around the galaxy create freelancers, Reliance, and other MISC ships. Everything on this planet is limited and expensive, meaning there's very few personal hangars. However, there is the xi'an Landing Consortium, which is a completely automated landing and hangar system for people coming in to visit or do business. Fujin City is also home to the ship-selling giant Astro Armada. And outside of businesses, you can also find Nessa Park, which is supposed to be kind of a nice escape for those residents working in buildings all day. Centauri IV is a rocky planet, and it's unable to really sustain an atmosphere thanks to the lack of the core on the planet. The surface is really featured by dominating asteroid belt impacts. It's really kind of laid out right in the middle of this asteroid belt, and the surface is just completely just pummeled by asteroids. And while it's technically, and I'm going to really kind of scratch my head on this one, it's technically labeled as a potential terraforming candidate. But why anybody would choose a planet that is constantly being pummeled by asteroids as a terraforming candidate is beyond me. So for you miners out there, though, this is another system where we hear about a very dense asteroid filled with a lot of minerals, so much that it actually could have formed a nice rich planet. And there aren't really a whole lot of rights that are being owned by corporations, at least that have been mentioned to this point. Now, there's occasionally a MISC mining platform that's constructed out there to help sustain the construction of their ships, but if you want to bring in the Orion to a really good location and a relatively safe space, this would seem to be a good location to do that at. And finally, we have Centauri V, a massive gas giant, several times larger than what we're seeing elsewhere in the galaxy, with lots of red and yellow gases, giving it the look you're going to kind of recognize. It's known to be a good location for refueling. So who wants to come to Centauri? I think a lot of people are going to find value in this system, especially now that we've got very good mining option out there. So Orion captains, bring your escorts, because I hear that there's probably dense fields of asteroids. I kind of think about how pirates might be able to hide and stay off radar out there and take advantage of you in a good situation for themselves. That's also good for the escorts because that gives you a little bit of value in coming to the system. I also think about large-scale shipping to help sustain the large manufacturing here with the big ship like a Starfarer. I think tourism is going to be big on Saisei. I think for those of you that are interested in seeing that MISC lineup up close, you could make a trip out of that. Or maybe if you just bought yourself a new Starfarer and you want to try it out, head out to Centauri V, fill up, and then come back and sell it to other places. I think there's a lot to do in Centauri that's going to make it worth a lot of people's time to come here, and probably even call this place home, especially if you're kind of have mining as your primary objective in game. So that's going to be it for now. As always, if you have questions, please leave them in the comments. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys soon. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Take care.